Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Operation Management. Um, this week, we are going to study about the forecasting. Again, we are going to deal with chapter number 6, which consists of two separate problem. The first problem that we are going to deal with today is about the forecasting, and for the next week is going to be about the capacity planning. So for the forecasting, we have why do we have to use forecasting? We have to use it because we want to determine if the demand is sufficient or not to do something. For instance, suppose we can forecast that there are a demand in a few years, but actually, the profit that we are going to gain is not that much, so we may reject that opportunity. Or if we know that the demand will grow up very high in the next few years, so we may have to do something in order to serve that demand. Forecasting range could be divided into three terms. The first one is the long term. When we talk about long term, we are talking about 2 to 5 years. So in this case, we are going to think about the design and build a new facility. Okay, because this is long term, we are thinking about the new facility. And if we are looking at the midterm or medium term forecasting, we are looking at the range around 3 to 18 months. Um, the decision that we have to make during that time is about staff planning. We may have to think about lay off the staff or rehire the staff in order to fit in our work uh, environment. The last one is about short-term planning, okay, short-term forecasting, which are going to be around 1 week to 3 months. Uh, in this case, we are going to make a decision about production planning, workforce scheduling, or material requirement planning. For the approach that we can use for the forecasting, we have both formal and informal, which we are going to discuss in a few minutes, okay? But actually, we are going to focus here in our uh, study today about the auto projection. For the forecasting method or forecasting approach, as I told you earlier, we have informal and formal. For the informal approach, we use intuition or guess. Okay, so this approach has no specific scientific proof. So is it good? No, it's not good at all. Okay, so normally we cannot use this approach in determining something about our production system or our service system. Okay, so it's not that good. But actually, we have the formal approach that we can use, which could be separate into two groups. The first group is qualitative approach, and the other is quantitative approach. For the qualitative approach, we normally use it for a long range forecast, and the external factor plays significant roles, and normally we use it for strategic decision. And for the quantitative approach, normally we use it for short-term or medium-term forecast. The choosing of forecasting method depending on range, okay, range. If we are talking about long range, normally we use qualitative because long range is mean long-term forecasting, we may have not know any accurate data. So we normally use the qualitative approach. But for short range, which need a greater accuracy and you have much more detail about the data. So the best approach that you have to use is the quantitative approach. And the second factor that could be indicate which forecasting approach that you could use is availability of the data. If the data available, so in this case, you need to use the quantitative approach. Otherwise, you need to use qualitative approach. And time and money limitation. So if you have more time, and more money, in this case, you can use complicated or complex method, that is the quantitative approach. And if you need more accuracy about your forecast, okay, so in this case, you need to use the quantitative approach. For the qualitative approach, we can give you some example of the qualitative approach. The first one, which I think you are familiar with this approach, that is the survey. We can use telephone survey, we can use mail survey, ask the customer about attitude and intention about the product. I would like to say that the mail survey is the worst because if you don't give some incentive, the response rate is going to be very, very low. Comparing between mail survey and telephone survey, the telephone survey is much more effective because you phone them, you contact them, you ask them, and then they respond you immediately, and then you can get the information that you want. Okay. The second one is the life cycle survey. In this case, you ask the experienced manager who have introduced several new products to estimate how long the product will remain in each state of its life cycle. Here is the life cycle of the product, which consists of four uh, phases. The first phase is introduction. Okay, this is the annual sale volume. The sale volume is not that much, and then growth. You can see the rate of growth. Okay, is very high. The growth rate is very high. Therefore, it's called growth. And then stable. So it's called maturity state. And then after that, decline. This is the end of life of the product. Okay. Ask the experienced manager to estimate how long the product will remain in each state. Okay, this is life cycle analysis. Or you may use the historical analogy. In this case, you analyze the historical demand of similar product or services. For instance, if you want to find the demand for iPhone 11, you just use the demand for iPhone 10 to estimate what would be the demand for the demand curve for the iPhone 11. This is what we call historical analogy. And then you can ask the data or information from expert opinion or expert panel. In terms of panel, it means a group of people who want to join the activity or want to join the focus group with incentive, so they get paid. And then you ask the information from them. This is a group of experts. You can use the something like a focus group or uh, opinion from the customer as well. Ask them to join the group and then ask information about the product, or even test marketing in a limited area. So you can test the product with some customer, okay, and ask them. Another method that is very popular, especially in the focus group or in the survey, we call it Delphi approach of the qualitative. So in this case, we are asked the group of the people to share the information to us. For the Delphi, the effectiveness of the Delphi is this approach can eliminate the undesirable effect of interaction between members of the group while retaining the benefit of their broad experience and knowledge. What it means is because whenever the people sit together in a meeting, normally somebody will be dominate in the discussion. So if you just let them talk and talk, you cannot get the information from the one who is or who are quiet. So in this case, this approach begin with ask individual to forecast on their own. So normally they will send a post-it paper to each uh, respondent and then ask them to write something, ask them to write their own opinion. Okay, and then submit that opinion or submit that post-it paper to the facilitator or the researcher. And after that, the researcher collect all the information and present them on the whiteboard, right? And discuss. Now you, um, when in when the respondent write anything, you don't let them to discuss with the others. Okay, they have to write on their own. But when the feedback come, the facilitator will group, okay, will group the idea and then present the idea. And now you can ask all the member to discuss. Okay, so there will be some discussion during this period, during this time, and then do it again. Okay, second round, third round, fourth round, and then eventually you can reach the consensus decision. Okay, so don't forget that the benefit of the Delphi is the eliminate interaction between member of the group. Okay, please make a note on this. Make note on this key idea of Delphi. Now, if we are looking at the quantitative approach, we are going to deal with the one approach that we are going to use is the what we call auto projection, or sometimes we call it time series analysis. And this approach normally used for the stable environment, that is the data is not fluctuate much. Okay, so this is the simple approach that we can use in forecasting. Five basic technique that we are going to discuss today consists of the first approach is the very basic, that is last period demand, and the second one is cumulative average and moving average and weighted moving average, and the last one is exponential smoothing. I will go through it one by one. Okay, this is the information that will be given to you. For instance, suppose in this exercise, um, the question gives you the number of patients in a healthcare in a health center, okay, that will get the service from this health center. We would like to predict the number of patients. Okay, what we have here is period number one. The number of patients is use the health center service is 3,500 people. Period number two, 8,000 people. Period number three, 5,500 until period number 14, that is 17,500. We would like to forecast the number of patients to be used to use this service to use the service from the health center in period number 15. This is actual demand. They give you actual demand. So you have to use this data in order to forecast demand for the period of 15. Okay. So the first approach that we are going to talk is about the last period demand. This is the simplest approach. So you need to use the actual demand of the last period to be the forecasted demand for the next period. For instance, suppose you are here, you are in the first period, and you know that the actual demand in the first period is 3,500. You want to forecast demand in period 2, right? So the demand in period 2 is equal to the demand in period 1, the actual demand in period 1, that is 3,500. The forecast demand of period 3 is equal to the actual demand of period 2, okay, that is 8,000. And then if you want to forecast the demand in period 15, okay, demand in period 15, forecast demand in period 15, you are here, you are in period 14, right? According to last period demand, the demand in period 15 is equal to 17,500. Okay, this is forecast demand. This is actual demand. This is the what we call last period demand approach. The first approach, simple, right? The second one, we use the cumulative average to forecast the demand. By using the average of all the past demand, before the need to predict period, to predict the next period demand. So, if you are in period number 1, okay, you have just only one data. So in this case, the cumulative average is 3,500 divided by 1. So demand in period, forecast demand of period 2 is equal to 3,500. What about forecast demand of period 3? You have two data, okay? You have two data now. So according to cumulative average, the forecast demand of period 3 is equal to 3,005 plus 8,000 because you got two periods. So you divide by 2. So it is going to be equal to 5,750. What about the forecast demand of period 4 here? You got 3 data now, 1, 2, and 3. So you sum them all and then divide by 3. That is 3,005 plus 8,000 plus 5,005 divided by 3. You got 5,667. What about F15? F15 is equal to 3,005 plus 8,000 plus 5,005 until 17,500. How many period you have? 14 period. And then you divide by 14. You got this number, right? Okay. The next one, we call it moving average. This is the formula of moving average. Okay. Ft plus 1. So period, the T stand for period number for the current period. Okay. This is the current period number T. Ft plus 1 forecast demand for the next period. And AI here. A is actual demand in period I. So you sum them and then divide by the number of periods to be included in the moving average. So suppose we assume that n is equal to 4, right? N is equal to 4. In this case, okay, you need at least 4 data in order to calculate the moving average. Okay, so the forecast demand of period 1, 2, 3, 4 cannot be done because you have not enough data to use the moving average. So you need at least 4 data. So the first period that you can predict, or you can forecast is period number 5, that is F5, because you got 4 data according to given number of period to be included in the moving average. Okay, so in this case, F5 is equal to 3,500 plus 8,000 plus 5,500 plus 10,000 and divide by 4. So you got 6,750. If you want to find F6 here, you need again 4 data. So this is the 4 data, right? Okay, it's going to be 8,000 plus 5,005 plus 10,000 plus 4,005 divided by 4. You got this F6, right? And if you want to find F15, okay, you need 4 data here. Here is 4 data, your 4 data, n is equal to 4. So 7,500, 15,000, 13,005 plus 17,500 and divide by 4. So you got this number, okay? 13,375. This is F15. You can see that the average is moving, right? Moving according to the given n, or the given period that to be included in the moving average. So they call it, so that is the main reason that they call it moving average. Don't forget that if you have not enough information, you cannot predict by using this approach, right? Okay, this is the moving average.